Greetings and a warm welcome to the debate on Press TV. I'm your host, Behruz Najafi. Welcome to the show. More than 1,000 days pass since the referendum on Britain's divorce from the EU, and no one still knows when or even whether the UK will leave the European Union or not. Most people involved in the issue argue that the ball remains in London's court. British Prime Minister has asked for a 3-month delay to be able to get the MP's consent. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has warned, quote, the withdrawal has to be before May 23rd, otherwise we will face institutional difficulties and legal uncertainty. He also says that elections have to be held if the extension is after 23rd of May. Now, is there light at the end of the tunnel for the UK? What will be the fate of the Brexit? First, let's talk to our correspondent in London, Robert Inlakish, for an update on the issue. Robert, over to you.
So what we've seen right now is that the European Union has basically said that it will back an extension, a short extension of Article 50 if Theresa May's deal can get put through. But there's really no reason for there to be an extension if it cannot be put through and passed by MPs, because the European Union is not going to accept any differences in the deal. Theresa May can get nothing different from the EU. So it's this deal or nothing at the moment. And now questions are just rising as to whether the EU is indeed going to allow for the extension of Article 50. So everything is up in the air at the moment, and there seems to be no new developments in terms of anything solid. And in fact, it's just all rhetoric now.
Okay, that was Robert Inlakish, our correspondent in London. Let me now introduce our guests who will be joining us in this edition of the debate. We'll have Andre Walker, who's a political commentator, joining us from London, and also Graham Hughes, political activist and filmmaker, who's joining this debate from Liverpool. Good to have both of you, gentlemen. Now, let me start with Andre. Theresa May is buying time to win the approval of the British parliamentarians for her deal. Parliament Speaker and also others have warned that she needs to come up with a greatly changed or modified plan this time. Now, she sounds resolute to get the deal passed through the House. Will she be able to do that?
Well, I mean, I think it's always a very difficult thing for me as somebody who's a solid Brexiteer, simply because the big debate that's going on at the moment with this withdrawal agreement is whether the European Union is going to be able to control British laws in perpetuity, which is something that I think is pretty unacceptable. The current legal position, just to explain, is that a law has been passed so that Britain will leave the European Union on the 29th of March. The big debate now is that our Parliament never wanted to leave the European Union and is desperately trying to stymie us leaving the European Union. They want us a second referendum, maybe a third referendum, fourth referendum, fifth referendum. They also want the European Union to have significant control, potentially controlling our trade policy. And I think that from my point of view, what this confusion is actually a good thing, because if Parliament can't agree anything at all, then we just leave on the 29th of March. And remember, we have to pay the European Union 39 billion, not for a free trade agreement, but to negotiate the negotiations for a free trade agreement. What a disgrace.
Right. Now let's ask Graham Hughes. Graham, what are the changes that the MPs expect to see in May's revised deal? And Andre is saying that they don't want actually to ratify anything.
Well, for a starter, we know that most of the Conservative Party are all behind Brexit now, and the leader of the Labour Party is totally behind Brexit. So much so that he won't even ask for an inquiry into all the illegal activity that went on in the first referendum. So the idea that the MPs somehow don't want Brexit is a nonsense. The majority of them seem to want this deal. Oh, sorry, not this deal. They just want to get out of the EU, and it looks like Theresa May is going to just have to take it back to the House of Commons pretty much unchanged, except for the fact that now she can say, oh, but hang on, the EU have said that they will allow an extension if you allow this to go through. If you don't, it'll be no deal, which will be absolutely catastrophic. Andre is talking about 39 billion that we're having to pay the EU for our duty. We are things that we've signed up to that we have to pay, including Nigel Farage's pension.
Rubbish.
And,
Nonsense.
And the reality is, over £1 trillion has already left in assets from the City of London. It's been 1,000 days now, over 1,000 days since the referendum. Brexit has cost the United Kingdom, in terms of assets which have gone from the UK to the EU, £1 billion a day so far, and we haven't even left yet. Foreign direct investment is down 92%, and we are walking away from 759 trade treaties with other countries around the world. No deal will destroy this country, and Andre knows it, and he's laughing about it because he thinks it's hilarious.
It's remarkable.
Andre is going to attack
it's remarkable. Hey, look, I'm really impressed that the European Union has managed to do 759 trade deals in a world where there's only 235 countries. Hey, look,
there's more than one
really
trade deal with each country.
Look, what this guy's talking is, of course, absolute rubbish. The truth of the matter is that unemployment in the UK is at its lowest level, despite Brexit. The OECD is predicting that British growth will outstrip Germany, despite Brexit. The moving round of assets, where they're domiciled, make precisely no difference. And the fact is, you would have to be a Scouse communist in order to believe that was an issue at all, because that would mean you wouldn't know anything at all about economics. Look, the truth of the matter is,
the truth in London. Are you saying they haven't left London? Because this has been reported in the Telegraph, which is owned by the owners of the Ritz. So I think they're all for Brexit. They've been all for Brexit all the way along. This was reported in the Telegraph that over £1 billion worth of assets have already left the City of London. Is that true or not? Tell me.
Where you nominally domicile the paperwork of a particular asset is entirely irrelevant. If you think about it,
Andrew, please answer the question.
Well,
it's gone to the EU, mate. It's gone to the EU that you dislike. It's gone to
hang on. Listen, do you want me to answer the question or not? I mean, I'm happy to answer it if you want.
Go on.
Or you can just continue shouting. I mean, either way, I'm good. Okay, so globally, 60% of overseas investments is controlled by the City of London. If you include former colonies, that rises to 70%. These assets are regularly moved from dominion to dominion, from place to place. What the important part of it is the City of London remains the predominant economic power in the world. The idea that somewhere like Frankfurt in the European Union, or worse still, Paris, would remove that status is absolute nonsense. And frankly, the idea that a nominal paperwork transaction that moves the domicile status of an asset means that it has left the country is obviously nonsense. But let's get back to the big issue.
Now, hang on, Andre, answer the question. Where does the tax go now? The profits made on those assets that are not in London anymore, where does the tax go? Does it go to the export?
Here we go. Look, once again, happy to answer the question.
Go ahead, Andrew.
The tax take in the United Kingdom. The tax take in the United Kingdom continues to increase. It will increase after Brexit, and I'll tell you why it's going to increase. The reason it's going to increase is because we're going to be freed from the shackle of European regulation. We're going to be free to trade with the rest of the world in a way that we can't at the moment, and that will cause an economic boom. This is why the OECD. This is why the OECD.
I want to pick up on what you just said.
Listen, can you shut this moron up?
Rest of the world, yeah? I just want to ask a quick question about that, right? What has more money in terms of GDP? Is it all 54 countries of Africa put together, or is it France on its own?
What precise point are you making?
The rest of the world is pretty poor. There are only 35 nations in the world that are regarded by the IMF as having advanced economies. 27 of them are in Europe,
including the United States of America and China. This guy's just an idiot. I don't even know why you invited him on. The rest of the world, let me just tell you something, my friend. The rest of the world is not poor. The world's largest economy is the United States of America. You've got India, you've got China, you've got countries
Okay, gentlemen, let's get back to the main
look,
topic.
the idea that we should be a little European and that we should only ever shackle ourselves to this.
Okay,
How
Graham.
about with a senior partner in the EU instead of a junior partner in a trade deal with India?
Can I tell you something? In the past 15 years, every single region in the world has seen economic growth aside from the European Union.
You'll come on to this,
and
Andre.
yet it's such a great
when you're talking about
powerhouse.
growth, Bhutan has 11% growth. It's 11% of absolutely nothing, but it's 11% growth. We leave without a deal. We have no more free trade deals with anywhere in the world. We currently have free trade deals with a third of the world's GDP.
Okay, gentlemen.
We lose all that. Sanctions, Andre, are usually reserved for naughty countries that the international community...
Okay, Graham, please, let's get back to the main topic.
We're putting sanctions
Graham
on
and Andre.
ourselves.
Can I just help you out with this?
Graham.
Can I just help?
Okay, Andre, let's get back to the main
topic.
topic. Andre, I got a question for you, Andre.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the French government, the French government has adopted a tough stance on extending Article 50. You know, French Foreign Minister has said, I'm quoting him, ratify the deal or leave without an agreement. Spain also saying that it depends on what the UK Premier will tell the European Leaders Summit on Thursday. What do you predict will come out of the summit tomorrow?
By the way, I'm just going to say something to you. If he shouts at me, I'm just going to pull the earpiece out. But anyway,
now take it easy.
So in terms of leaving without a deal, look, the most important thing about that is we need the ability to set our own trade policies. We need the ability to set our own tariffs. You know, if Iranian people were talking about being ruled by Baghdad, they wouldn't be particularly impressed with that. We need to be able to make our own decisions in our own parliament. And that is the most important bit about Brexit. And that's why Brexit is going to be a huge success. Now, in terms of the withdrawal agreement, look, I think paying 39 billion, paying 39 billion to not only have not to have a trade agreement, but rather to negotiate the negotiations for a trade agreement is a really, really bad deal. And I think we can spend 39 billion pounds better elsewhere. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to say something to you, just in case we need the geography lesson. The rest of the world is not just Bhutan, it also includes the United States of America and areas of the globe which are growing far better than the European Union.
So the important thing, just to come back
Graham,
to
I got a question
Andrew
for you.
just said. Oh, go on.
Answer my question. Now, opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn, he has criticized May again. You know, he's been always criticizing May for leading the UK.
It is his job.
He says she's leading the UK into crisis, chaos, and division, and he calls May's deal a damaging national failure that should be rejected. Does Corbyn have a better plan to offer?
No, he doesn't. He wants to Brexit as well, which is what is causing all the division in the nation. It's not May. It's not Corbyn on his own. It's Brexit. It has divided communities. It's split up families. It's destroyed lifelong friendships for the right to set our own tariffs, apparently, which Andre knows isn't true. Because at the moment, we have free trade, comprehensive free trade with the EU, plus Canada, plus Singapore, plus South Korea, not North Korea, and Japan. That's over a third of the world's GDP put together. 0% trade deals already in place with those countries. We leave without a deal and suddenly we are on WTO terms with pretty much everyone, and they have to charge them. These are taxes that go on our exports to other foreign countries' governments that we can't set and we can't control. What we can do is we can zero the tariffs coming into the UK, but then when we go, hang on,
okay.
I'm talking now.
Let him
when
finish.
we go into the trade negotiations, they'll just say to us, oh, hang on, we're not paying any tariffs to sell you stuff. You have to pay tariffs to send us stuff. What do we care? Why do we want a trade deal? We've already got the best trade deal we could possibly get with the United Kingdom. That's what no deal does to us.
Let's
it
go to
absolutely
Andre.
destroys us.
Okay, Andre.
Hey, look. I think it's really important that we clarify what's going on here, because this guy, the other guy, is really, really confused. So in terms of trade tariffs, what he just said to you, and you can play back the tape if you want, that if we leave with no deal, we will be paying tariffs to foreign governments. That is, of course, nonsense. At the moment, our tariffs are set by the European... Hang on a second.
It's
Let me
Andre's
answer
turn,
this,
Graham.
right? Because I think this debate has to involve...
It's
this
Andre's
debate has
turn.
to
Go
involve
ahead,
something
Andre.
other than him just shouting.
Oh, it's okay.
So the way trade tariffs work is this. At the moment, the European Union sets the trade tariffs for the United Kingdom. Now, whether that is 0 or anything up to 50%, right, that is set by the European Union. After leaving the European Union, we set them ourselves. Now, that is not somebody else deciding. That is not payment to another government. That is not decided by the WTO. We could, on the 30th of March... No, hang on a second. Let me answer. Let me finish this, because it's important. It's extremely... This is extremely important. We need to be able to set our own tariffs, and at the moment, we can't do it because of the European Union.
Okay. Andre is fundamentally confused between import tariffs, which you can set ourselves, and export tariffs, which other countries set, and the governments take the money from whoever buys it in those other countries. They don't take it directly off us. It comes from our goods.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to buy a British car next year, it will cost 10% more.
All right,
if they want to buy a British bit of lamb, it will cost 40% more.
Graham,
for the people in the other countries.
Now, let's look at it from the EU's
perspective. He's the only person in the world who thinks
Graham,
that Brexit's going to be great for Britain. He's
let's
the only one left.
Now, Graham, listen, let's look at it from the EU's perspective. Some analysts are arguing that an extension of Article 50 would impose huge dilemmas and issues on Brussels. You know, they say that the EU tried to see an orderly withdrawal to minimize, damage to member states, citizens, and businesses. And a prospect of disorderly or no-deal Brexit is not what the bloc favors. Now, what issues exactly will the EU be facing in case of accepting the extension period that Theresa May is asking for?
Well, nothing really. I mean, we'll have another vote in Parliament a third time, because Parliament's allowed to vote on the same thing again and again, whereas the British people, the British public, are not allowed to have another vote on Brexit because that would be undemocratic. This is the situation we're in at the moment, which is just bizarre. But I can't see it being a massive problem unless it gets knocked back by Parliament next week, in which case it will be an option for Theresa May. She can either take us out with no deal, which will destroy the country for the very reasons that I've outlined, that poor old Andre doesn't seem to grasp. This is schoolboy level stuff. Stuff comes in, stuff comes out. The stuff that comes in, you can tax to whatever you want. The stuff that goes out, you can't set the tax on that. The other countries do. You do a deal with them not to put tax on it, but we are walking away from all of our deals that are already set up. And as I've said, there are over 750 of them through the EU. We lose every single one of them. So if that happens, Theresa May's got the two choices. She can either take us out with our deal, or she can unilaterally revoke Article 50. That is our last card that we can play as a sovereign nation without other countries telling us what to do.
Let's go to
but Andre just wants to beg the EU for assistance in letting us leave and become the most economically uncompetitive nation.
Okay, Graham, let me go to London and ask Andre this question. Andre, the European Commission is telling EU leaders that the UK must participate in elections for the European Parliament if it's going to stay in the bloc beyond May 23rd. Now, what's expected to happen in your opinion? Will all members of the EU agree to the delay?
Well, I sincerely hope not. I sincerely hope that we'll leave the European Union on the 29th of March as per the legislation. I don't see any reason to extend this, and I don't see any reason to approve the withdrawal agreement. At the moment, if we don't approve it, if Parliament doesn't approve it, then there will be no extension to Article 50, and we leave on the 29th of March. I don't think that's anything that we need to be particularly afraid of. I think it's going to be a good thing. Now, obviously, look, we can't extend Article 50 for 2 years, which is the maximum you can extend it, and not have European Parliament elections. But as I think your question implied the obvious point here, that it would be a complete fiasco to run a European parliamentary election for a country that was leaving anyway. I think that would be a joke.
No, I was just asking your opinion. Now, we have one last question, and every one of you have only 30 seconds. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Graham, which scenario would best suit the UK? Is Brexit really worth all the trouble? 30 seconds.
There is a minister for food distribution. That should have been the end of it. In Britain, in peacetime, there's been no natural disaster. There is a minister for food distribution. Wake up, Britain. You're being led down the road by absolute lunatics like Andre who don't know what they're talking about. This is going to be economically ruinous for us. The best option is to revoke Article 50 immediately for any more damage is done.
Okay. Andre, 30 seconds.
My advice to, I think, Britain and the world is to ignore these moronic, shouty scousers that we've seen on this programme today. Britain deserves to be a free and independent country. We were pushed into the European Union. 75% of our laws are made in Brussels. The British people want to change that. We voted to change that. We've got a really bad parliament, but I think we're going to get things together.
Right.
Britain is going to absolutely boom when we cut tax and regulation after Brexit.
Okay, appreciate your comments. We had Andre Walker, political commentator from London, and also Graham Hughes, political activist and filmmaker from Liverpool. And thank you for watching this debate. We'll see you soon.